Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome
Yo.
to Wednesday Roundtable. We have a fun group already. We've already been cracking jokes here in the background before we went live. Got Doug and Ellie from Frameable Faces, Jim from Jim in Chicagoland, obviously, and Helen Wallace. Welcome, everyone.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. So, as the title says, this roundtable is about talk shows. And the three of our guests have a talk show to some capacity, right? Radio show, hosted radio show. You got Doug and Allie and the Doug and Allie morning show. And then Jim, the late evening amazing show that you host as well. So I wanted to bring you all together to kind of have a conversation about hosting talk shows on the internet and live broadcasting them. But first, before we dive into that, I'd love to give an announcement, and that is that Android has now officially released for Happs. So now Android is now up to speed with iOS. Yep, slow claps all around. And we're really excited that they're now at the same level. Android still has a little bit of kind of like tweaking to do, but it now has the full screen for the broadcasting view. And we are super excited about that. And hopefully everyone can go ahead and test that out here soon. But yes, so as you all know, the roundtables are a time for us to have a Q&A, so to speak, with our contributors, our users, our community of Happs. And this week we're focusing on talk shows. So hello, everyone that's joining. Thank you for joining. And my first question for everyone is, where did the idea of going live to social media come from for you all? And who'd ever love to go first, go ahead. But yeah.
We can go.
We can go.
Do you want to start?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll fill in your gap.
All right. Well, we actually we started going live from our photography studio in West Bloomfield, Michigan. It's a suburb of Detroit, under our brand name. So we're actually a brick and mortar photography studio here in West Bloomfield. And we got the idea to start live streaming when Periscope launched.
Which was in 2015, like 6 years
2015.
ago.
Yep. Periscope launched on March 26th, 2015. And on March 31st, my buddy Alex sent me a text saying, "Hey, have you heard of this?" I was like, "No." So I checked it out. Well, this would be great for us.
Wait, he had a question.
What? Who has a question?
Oh, I thought someone asked a question.
No, I think Peter just jumped on and said hello.
Oh, hi, Peter.
Oh, hi, Peter. Glad you could make it.
I'm here. Oh my gosh, I made it. I had a firewall issue. I finally figured it out. So sorry, guys. The host finally has arrived. Tardy, very guilty over here.
The comment section's already gold dust, by the way. Comedy gold. The comment section.
Oh boy.
It was a great show, Peter. We wish you could have made it.
Thank you all the time.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Well, I'm sure with this many talk show hosts here, I mean, do you even need another host, right? I mean, I'm sure there's probably already that discussion in the comments. But hope everyone's introduced themselves at the very least to those who may not know one another here. But yeah,
I think Doug and Allie were in the middle of explaining how they first went.
What are you reading?
Pablo behind the scenes in the studio, we now know what he's up to when he's not on screen. He is binge eating some. Are those sour gummies, bud? Oh man, sour punch. There you go.
Those look good
Good.
right now, actually.
Feeling very left out.
What's up, foamy homies? Yes, it's not the morning. We are here on this round table. Peter Pablo actually went around and introduced everybody and asked the first question.
Oh my gosh, what a pro, and retired to the sour punch. What a classy guy. That's awesome.
And the first question was, how did you get started in live streaming and doing a talk show type format? So I was just going back to the beginning of Periscope, when Periscope launched. And we'd always been very visual because we're a photography studio to begin with. and we'd been using Instagram and I think maybe even Vine by that point.
Yeah, we were totally using Vine.
Where we were doing a lot of behind the scenes video, like we'd been using video, but live streaming wasn't anything we had really thought about. And when my buddy told me, hey, have you heard of this Periscope thing? I went and downloaded it 5 days after it launched, started playing around with it, and immediately I could tell, like, oh, this is pretty cool. You know, you can go live. My wheels started turning about the possibilities. And we started going on thinking, well, you know, we'll start doing some tutorials and some behind the scenes on our photo sessions. But it evolved pretty quickly beyond that, just in terms of community and just kind of the live aspect. And it just, the show
spiraled.
just kind of
It
spiraled.
just happened.
Yeah. It kind of took on a life of its own. And we ended up trending on the app, and it kind of morphed into this, well, let's go on in the morning and see what that looks like. Hey, it's Doug and Allie Morning Show here with you, and boom, it just kind of happened, and we kept going. And, you know, almost 6 years later now, we're still doing the Doug and Allie Morning Show every morning, and it was a very easy transition to come over here to Happs once Periscope made their announcement.
Yep.
And we're very happy that we're here.
Very happy.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Very cool. So tell me about, you know, what your main motivation is when you wake up and you press that go live. What keeps you broadcasting? You know, you're on this is different platform. You got a lot of community over here, but you know, what really, you know, brings you back every day? Because that's a commitment, you know, that's a serious investment.
It's a definite commitment, and it's a definite investment, and it's been hard time-wise sometimes. However, what keeps us coming back are the messages that we get from people. Like, we just got one the other day that was like, oh my gosh, that's so nice. So someone reached out and said, I just want you guys to know that what you're doing isn't just a morning show. It's a way for us to escape the everyday reality. We can all get together as a community and just kind of laugh and have fun. So it's been kind of like, I guess, like a little respite from life for a lot of people, including us. And it's just kind of a way, especially now with everything going on, it's just kind of a fun way to just kind of like decompress and have some fun and escape from the everyday reality of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we've got community, we've got regulars, you know, people that are part of our community that have been hanging out with us in the mornings for almost 6 years now. So it's just become part of, you know,
like they're our family,
we
like
feel
they're our
like
friends.
we kind of owe it to our people to be there for them every morning. You know, they rely on us and we rely on them.
That's incredible. I would love to hear from Helen and Jim as well about you know, how they got started. I guess I'm jumping in, you know, mid-show here, so I'm not sure if you've actually addressed those first question in particular. But Helen, would you like to take a crack at it?
Well, first of all, I would like to say thanks for having me, and I love both of the shows. You've brought me in with Doug and Allie and Jim, who both have great shows, so I'm privileged to be here, and I love being in their broadcasts. I started again on Periscope 2015, the June of 2015, and I originally started Periscope because I was working in and around the Fringe. Also, like Doug and Allie, I am a professional photographer. That's my full-time job. It doesn't seem that way at the moment because of COVID, everything's so quiet, but that is what I actually do. So I had started on Periscope showing the Fringe, really. I'd first gone live before that, but that was mainly what I used it for, you know, going around the venues, showing people what the Edinburgh Fringe. I don't know if in America you're familiar with the Edinburgh Fringe, but it's it's the world's largest arts festival, and most comedians and performers go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival to be discovered. You know, it's a big thing. So I was working in and around the Fringe, and that's what I started off showing that. And then I'd show, you know, bits of Edinburgh. People didn't really want to see that. They wanted me to sit in front of the screen and just talk nonsense and have a chat, you know. And it became almost like, you know, being self-employed, I don't have any colleagues, so it became almost like a way to have colleague banter with people. And that was the start of, you know, broadcasting. The radio thing came later, actually on Periscope. I had gone to join another person on Periscope who had a radio show, and was doing a 32-hour live broadcast to fundraise for the community radio station. And 32 hours is a long time to be trapped in a cupboard on your own. So I had gone to keep him company for a little while, and whilst on air, two of the bosses, two of the committee members at the radio station had tuned in at 2 o'clock in the morning and heard my voice and turned up at the station and said, "You've got a great voice, would you like your own show?" And that was back in sort of March, April 2019. And I've been doing radio since then. And it's predominantly music-based radio show. I have actually subsequently switched stations, but on here, I tend to find that we tend to mostly talk about music. We've got a little thing, almost like a book club situation, where we'll take turns hosting it. So there's a lot of music heads, and actually, again, Jim and Doug and Ali are amongst that group of people who love music, and that's the thing, we all seem to connect around, our enjoyment of music. I think the reason that Happs is such a great platform is you are engaging in face-to-face conversation with someone. The art of conversation is dying generally. I think the reason people like Happs is because, and even just sitting listening to people's conversations, people don't converse. We're wrapped up in our phone, we're used to sort of texting each other, but we don't actually have the social cues. When you're having a conversation with someone face to face, you can read the body language, you know what they're, thinking. And that's why Happs is, I think, almost addictive, because you're actually engaging in conversations. And essentially that's what a chat show is, a talk show is, having a conversation with someone. And I think Jim, I feel like I've done an awful lot of talking, but I think Jim does that brilliantly in his chat show. He has an opportunity to bring other people in and allow them to talk. It's a talk show. It's not just, a solo, I'm talking to the screen and you're just, in the comment section like it used to be on Periscope. There's a real face-to-face interaction.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue too, Jim. Huge fan of all of your shows here. Jim, your show is coming up tomorrow night, your weekly. Would you like to plug that and talk about, how you got that one started, as well as, how you found your way into, this crazy lifestyle? And it is kind of a lifestyle, it's definitely a really fun one. So tell us your take.
Well, first of all, Peter and Pablo, thank you so much for having us as guests, and thank you to everybody in the virtual studio audience for hanging out with us tonight. Just to make a long story short, I started live streaming about 2015. I downloaded the Periscope app back in late April of 2015, back when, I think what it was, I was just sick of politics on television. I was just tired of this side versus that side. I think it was all Hillary versus Trump on every news network. And meanwhile, there was a police officer that was being acquitted over in Baltimore for something that he may have done. And there was a lot of unrest in Baltimore, and I wanted to see what was going on. The news networks, and I think this is where co-founders David Newman and Mark Goldman would be all over this. They were just tired of this side or that side and talking about, fighting with each other. There was something going on, and I wanted to see what was happening. So I heard about this app called Periscope. I read about it online. It's like on the New Wall Street Journal website or something like that. And it said it's people with phones going around, and if it's going down, it's going live, uncensored, without commercials, and it's going live. And sure enough, there's somebody from the Guardian newspaper over there in the UK that was pretty much streaming a store getting looted, of all things, on the west side of Baltimore hours after the acquittal. And this wasn't on the news, on any of the news networks, for hours on end. And this guy's like, "Excuse me, chap, why are these people breaking into the store?" And the guy's in front like, "Turn that camera off." And then meanwhile, people are typing in comments like, "It's going down," or, "Get out of there, something's going to go to your," and this was raw news. And I was just hooked because I'm a news and information junkie. So the question is going live. When did I go live? It took Joanne Pham, it took Greg Lopez, G-Lo, it took a couple of other live streamers to encourage me to hit the red button to go live. I was more into just watching what other people had to say, and I was reluctant to go live. I had no confidence at that time. I think we were all scared. I think we all still get a little bit nervous when all of us, whether you're in the studio audience, you guys here in this great panel, we were all like trying to figure out, how do we get the courage to go live the first time? And it was my sand volleyball team of all things was my first broadcast ever. And it was a disaster. I think the only reason why our co-rec sand volleyball team was getting a lot of viewers is because the girls were the reason why everyone is like, open, open, open. And we're like, what about our team? And it was just a waste of time. It was a complete waste of time. But I didn't give up. I kept doing it, kept getting encouragement, and I got more comfortable. I wanted to hear about other people's stories. People could care less about my volleyball team. I wanted to hear about what other people were thinking about. And remember, like when Periscope first came out, everyone used to laugh at us when we're sitting there with our phones, and then all of a sudden COVID happens. Who had the last laugh? Now they're all like, oh, we don't know who to talk to. We have nobody to be with. We had each other on Periscope for years on end. We had the advantage right there and then, and we're taking that and we're transitioning over to Happs, and we're making it bigger and stronger and better than ever. So, I didn't mean to ramble, but it's just one of those things where it's just a passion of mine to hear what everyone's story is now, rather than focusing me. I want to hear about what you have to say, what your story is, and that's kind of the reason why I created that late night talk variety show that I do every Thursday night.
That's awesome. Yeah, so interesting to hear about everyone's kind of unique introductions into this world. Jim, can you, I guess since we're with you, we'll continue to go around, but curious, how did you find a rhythm and kind of a pattern, whether that's a routine for your show or a format, for people out there who might be considering creating these type of talk shows centered around having guests on and other community, making sort of routines and rituals, like how were you able to crack the code, and how can people get started?
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you just have to continuously rebrand is the key. Stay fresh, stay relevant, but at the same time, don't alienate your audience. I went from broadcasting, cheesy softball and volleyball games at a community park district or a bar to bringing in other broadcasters to do what we called scope trains, where we basically took one broadcast, followed up with another broadcast, then another one, and then another one. We called it scope trains. And that way, if people were not into that first person, they knew that somebody else that they could relate to was coming up right after that. And then maybe they'd stick around and go, wait a second, maybe that person was interesting. So we did something called Thunder Crew. Basically, it was about positivity, motivation. It was pretty much free form. It wasn't political or anything like that. It was just all free form fun with a bunch of people from all over the world. And then that kind of faded out, and we had to rebrand everything. And I decided that, late night talk shows, as good as they are, just aren't as relevant to us here on live streaming media. We needed something that was going to be kind of a consistent source where someone can come in who's maybe new to Happs or maybe wasn't introduced to somebody who has been broadcasting before on Periscope or on other streaming medias, and introduce them, get to know them, and get to hear their story about how they got to go live and what they like doing. I mean, whether it be somebody who's cooking or somebody who is into music or somebody who's, doing something for a charitable contribution. There's different people, and that's how it was just getting people in there to hear others' stories and being able to relate to somebody on a live social media platform as opposed to being talked to on a news network or on a late night talk show on the networks.
Such cool ideas. Yeah, love that collaboration element there. I think, we can definitely take advantage of some of, the technology at Happs as well to do something similar, since there's such a huge emphasis of community here as well in terms of, the product itself and how it's built and designed for multiple people on screen at any given time. So, really cool to hear that. Would be curious to hear some tips as well from maybe we'll throw it back to Helen and then come back to Doug and Allie. But Helen, what tips do you have for others getting started with this and your learning curve? Could you share a little bit of that?
Well, I'm the opposite to Jim in that I'm not structured at all. I'll hit the go live button with no agenda about what we're going to talk about, and it'll just ramble on for 2, 3, 4, even up to 8 hours. I think it's just interaction. Don't be I don't know. Is there a formula? I think we're all very different broadcasters. And even within our own sort of music, sort of book club thing that I'm talking about, we have people who are involved who do want to have a structure and, a formal, layout or whatever. And I don't function that way. So I'm probably not the best person to ask that question to. Just don't be nervous. Hit the go live. If you're frightened to show your face or whatever, I can see in the comments people are saying, "Oh, I'd like to go live, but I'm nervous to show my face." Take a walk around your neighborhood and show what's going on there, and then might finally pluck up the courage to show your face. There's no pressure for that. But no, I'm not a particularly structured broadcaster. It's different on radio, but even then, before COVID, when the radio station was still open, it'd be a case of turning up. I never had a playlist ready or anything. I would rock up 10 minutes before broadcast time and just play whatever I felt like as we go. I don't function very well with structure, so I don't think there is a formula. Just be yourself, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds like a winning tip in life, in every aspect, and particularly on camera, right? Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Doug and Allie, let's hear from you a little bit more about some best practices or some pro tips for how you are able to create community through your show and able to have some rituals. Obviously, almost I think everyone on screen has some memes that have come up and some common inside jokes with their community too. For example, some of those come into the broadcast quite regularly, almost on a daily basis. Doug and Allie, can you tell us a little bit about some of those community rallying icons? I don't know, legends. I don't know how you want to phrase it, but you have a bunch, and I'm sure you have some props with you somewhere nearby. If you're
we don't, we have no props. We're home.
The one time.
I know. But I just wanted to add something on to what Helen said about people who are worried to show their face. One of the most iconic broadcasters, I think, in all of live streaming, never seen his face. Never seen his face. Euro Maestro. You never see the guy's face. But he's all up in there and he's everywhere. Yep. And he does it. And that's his thing. So I think you should show your face, but you don't have to. So right. And then like how we've done it.
So I think what's interesting is you really have 3 distinct types of approaches here based on this panel, because you talk about Jim, who has always really brought a lot of structure to what he does, and he has different, different shows on different nights. He has, the around the campfire, and then he has the Thunder Crew that he did for a while with the train. And he does this Golden Squirrel Awards where everything's all mapped out, and he's got presenters. He's very structured. And then Helen says she's pretty much free form without any structure and just kind of goes unstructured and just rolls with whatever comes to mind. Well, with us, we're kind of somewhere in between.
In yeah.
Because we are a brick and mortar small business. So, and we always used to say, before there was a live streaming option for us, we used to joke and laugh about how, man, our art studio, the stuff that happens in this mall and the drama and the stories and the crazy stuff that happens would make a great reality show. Well, now we have one. And the things that happen around our brand with, people walking in the mall, or the fact that like our UPS delivery guy, John, has now become a character on our show. When he comes in, he's known as Hot UPS John now.
It's very sexy when Doug calls him Hot UPS John.
And he has an entrance song that we play.
Like Christmas Eddie.
Yeah. So just being in a business provides a little bit of structure. It doesn't mean that we have to plan out every show from A to Z, but there's a little structure that's just inherently there because we're running a business and we're broadcasting as a brand. So as far as a tip for that I would give to people, if I may, put my digital marketing hat on for a second, because that's also something.
That's what he does. He's really good at it. So if any of you guys need help, call Doug Cohen, M10 Social.
Well, that's kind of grown out of the studio, and the way we've approached creating content is I now have a digital marketing brand because people started coming to me and asking me to help them with their businesses. So I do that. And I think what's really powerful about live streaming in terms of tips, if you have a brand or if you are a business, there's still a lot of people that don't get and underestimate the opportunity to tell stories around your products, services, or your brand. And there's no better way to tell stories than to do it in this visceral way, in an immediate live streaming format with an audience where you can react to people in real time. So I think that would be a tip that I would give to people, is to, don't come on here thinking in terms of old school advertising mentality where you come on and sell your stuff. Come on and just tell your stories around your brand, which is what we do. And we barely talk about photography on our show, but we're sitting in our photography studio as Frameable Faces Photography. People know what we're there for, what we're doing. And we talk about just the life of being a small business owner and an entrepreneur, which is way more interesting than, hey, come buy our latest widget, So that would be my tip to somebody in terms of using live streaming.
Nice. Doug, I had to plug up M10 Social on the comments field.
I saw that, and I went to go like it, but I'm behind because Tony FaceTimed to let me know that his dragon did something unmentionable on him.
Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy.
Sorry, guys, had to put on a jacket there.
Feeling the cold there, Peter?
I am. I'm wimpy.
16 over there.
Used to live in Mongolia where it was literally negative 40 Fahrenheit in the winter, and now this gentle West Coast weather here I can't even handle. I literally have my parka still. Like, I just love being warm. Not gonna lie. I over layer, and I'm that guy with like the sweatshirt and the jacket and the rain shell. Like, I over prepare usually, and anyway, I'm shameless, so I'm gonna be comfortable. That's my goal right now. So
Peter, you are my people.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, how's the winter been out there these days?
It's very cold.
Yeah.
You would not like it.
Yeah, I can dig it. I mean, if it's gonna be cold, bring it on, and I'll embrace it and prepare extra. But if it's back and forth, or the in betweens are tough. Like, hot or cold, fine. I can prepare for that. But
like, what's in between? Like 50, 40?
Yeah, for whatever reason, like, I just can't handle that. It's either I don't know why. It's just,
as the great Billy Connolly once said, "There's no such thing as bad weather, only the wrong clothing."
Indeed, that is
Look
a
at
wise.
you, Helen.
Interesting.
Well played, Heather or Ellen. Now, Peter, question for you though: what did you guys do with all that snow that you had a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, so the snow, not too much. Actually got out and did a little snowshoeing up on Mount Rainier recently, which was awesome. They obviously got dumped on pretty good. You can usually find snow in the mountains around in the Northwest, close by, without too much of a drive, but you don't have to drive in it or live in it usually. But it was refreshing, I think. It didn't really cause too much issues, unlike this massive storm in Texas and other parts of the southern U.S., which is just totally different story. But it's definitely been an interesting winter all around for everyone.
So,
why are you guys laughing? What is going on?
so Heather, tell us a little more.
Yeah, Heather, as you were saying, I tried to quickly divert the name slip up.
This is my stream of consciousness, all about me. Interruption for my jackets.
I'm trying to cover up the
back to why we're here. As this happens. So sorry about that. We should have a weather show though. Someone should just do a darn weather show here on Happs. Why not? Let's make that a thing.
I think you should
Who
do it. Who
wants to step up and take that on?
You should do the weather.
You should do the weather thing.
Yeah, Peter.
Need to get the green screen.
Mhm.
Chief meteorologist. We'd have to do the weather everywhere, though. That's the thing, because we're a global community already. So it'd have to.
Well, you just
That could be like a 3-hour show.
We'll be your trained weather spotters. Peter, you'd be the chief meteorologist. We'd report to you.
Hey, yeah. I mean, that's a show. That's a
Need a big pointer.
When things get green outside and there's tornadoes here instead of snow, we'll let you know.
And that'd be cool. We could have people from all over the place just kind of hopping on with their phone and showing us what it looks like from the ground in real time. I'm down. This is how great ideas are born. But
that would be one of the ultimate. If someone could land and get like a $25, like one of those $25, you bring somebody over from Periscope for $25. There's the guy Jeff Piotrowski, who is like ultimate storm chaser on Scope. He will go down and chase down a tornado. He will chase down a hurricane. He owns like Periscope when he goes live when there's a tornado.
It's true.
Yeah.
Let's get them.
That's amazing. Yeah, someone reach out. We have a couple really great storm chasers as well here on Happs. Gage Shaw won, and we actually have Josh Napper and his team of live storm chasers. They have, a million followers between their social channels. A team of 4 or 5 fairly young storm chasers who are out and about. They've been doing some amazing stuff. But actually, I just heard from Josh. He's gonna, get back out into the field fairly soon. I think he just had a baby. But anyway, priorities. The weather, babies. But I think hopefully we'll get back to that. But do reach out. Let's bring in some weather folks. Why not?
Reach out and touch base.
There you go. Yeah, Pablo's tagging Gage. That's awesome. Cool. Well, back to kind of this thing on shows that apparently is the point of this show. Where were we before I came back with a park on in 60-degree weather?
We had just gone around and talked about tips,
like to start broadcasting.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I'm wondering, what ways do you try to mix it up then? I guess natural next question would be like, how do you, keep it fresh still and fun and rebrand, back to kind of Jim's point of, keeping it interesting and keeping, new reasons to keep going and innovating within your own shows. Sounds like Helen just kind of presses that button and it's a new adventure every time, which is fun. I love that spontaneity, but just curious to hear each of your takes on that. I don't know, maybe we'll start with Helen since I'm picking on you right now, apparently.
I do feel, well, I'm going to change my name on my profile to Heather. No, I think as long as you're enjoying it, right? Don't get caught up in, and there's a lot of talk on here about, branding and views and, having a brand and, just look, you're a human being communicating with other human beings, right? So be authentic. I hate that word as well because it's hijacked a lot. Just be yourself. And as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, you don't have to constantly mix it up. It's good if you do. I used to do a dating show on Periscope, Petty Blind Date. And we did have a successful match. One couple moved in together, had a baby, are now engaged. And I'm hoping to bring that back on Happs because nobody's doing it here. Nobody's doing a dating show. So that's my next, rebrand. It's not really a rebrand. I've been doing it on Periscope for years, but I'll do that because it's fun and people enjoy it and I enjoy it. I enjoy the sort of camaraderie of, I think in the States it might have been called the dating game. We had a thing in the UK called Blind Date with Cilla Black. And it was in a studio. It was very cheesy. I actually posted a clip from it on my timeline on here, and you'd have 3 people on stools behind a screen, and the host would come on, and there was the odd bit of innuendo and nudge, wink, chit chat with the person who was the contestant that week. And then the contestant would ask the 3 people on the stool some questions, and then they'd narrow it down and they'd have a match, and then they'd go away on a date, and 9 times out of 10 they hated each other, and they'd come back and tell the story about the date. it's like that, except virtual. You know, I'm not paying to send you on a date anywhere, but you can, you know, contact each other off the app and, you know, ride off into the sunset. So that's my next project, is Blind Date, or Perry. I'm going to call it Perry Blind Date, even though it's Happs. Periscope's gone. I feel like we need to, you know, pay homage to the platform that we were all on for nearly 6 years. So it will stay Perry Blind Date. So it'll be hashtag Perry Blind Date. So if anybody's single in the audience and you want matched up, make sure you're following me. We'll get it set up soon. That's my rebranding.
That's awesome. Yeah, do it. I think that leaves open the Happs Blind Date hashtag for someone else to jump on too. So sounds like some really interesting formats. We have a really good question from Michelle that I want to get to as well on, you know, what's the difference between talk in real life for y'all and having a talk show for each of you. I think this is a really great question. Jim, I'll toss it over to you for now.
Yeah, absolutely, Michelle. Great question. Michelle, Thunder Crew alumni, great friend. Met her at the 2018 Midwest Perry meetup and over at the Detroit meetup back in 2018. So make sure you subscribe and sponsor her. Talk versus hosting a talk show. Talk to me was basically someone hitting the red button, going live, and then with blinders on going, okay, this is my beef. Hi, how are you? This is what I'm going to talk about today. And I want everyone to answer my questions. I mean, you can interact with people, which is fine, but it kind of feels like more of a one-way street. I think there are some instances when you talk with people, you want to have that two-way street. You want to hear what they're saying. You want to get a feeling as far as what your audience wants to talk about, and then you kind of go from there. That's what we do usually on Wednesdays on Catalyst. When we do a candle scope, when we do like a fire pit in the summer, you don't see my face. It's about the people jumping into the room, and I pretty much hand them the steering wheel and let them drive. Then we talk. Talk show is more, to me personally, it's more formatted in the sense that I literally have a book where I literally will sit there and I will list a list of about 700-800 people I put on this list who I'd like to talk to, and I think that others would like to talk to. There are others who people may DM me and say, hey, could you interview this person, interview that person, or have this one as a musical guest. Then it turns into more like a question and answer format that you would see like on a Conan O'Brien or a Jimmy Fallon show or a Stephen Colbert, something along those lines, or a Jimmy Kimmel. So there's the line between talk and talk show is kind of two different things, but you can even take the word talk and kind of much split that up a little bit too. I mean, you don't want to scroll too much and read comments and ignore what the other person's saying, but at the same time, you want to keep them engaged and keep it fresh and keep it relevant.
Yeah, interesting about kind of the dynamic with the audience versus a person in conversation. Doug and Allie, you know, how do you feel? Are you the same people if we're talking to you off of camera, you know, off show? Like, how, you know, does that dynamic play out for you guys? You seem so genuine and authentic, and I think that's come out. I just want to put that out there. But what's the difference?
Can I ask Jimmy to answer this question, because he's met us in real life?
Yes.
And what do you think? I know what I think, but what do you think, Jimmy?
When I met Doug and Allie, this is something I was going to mention Thursday, but we'll worry about that later. No, I met them at a podcast summit of all things at the Hyatt in Chicago back in July of 2016. Dana Garrison, who was another big social media influencer, Ryan Bell, who's now more veering off into VR and AR, Casey Seaman was there as well. I think Ryan was the late scratch. He had a family emergency, so they went to the bullpen. Casey went like this, called to the bullpen, and summited this couple named Doug and Allie from Frameable Faces to be guest speakers at this podcast summit. And I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know anybody except Dana Garrison. And she came up to the hall and she saw me and she's like, Jam. And she brought me in. I sat to the seminar, and then afterwards I was live, nervous as all get up, and I'm like this. I'm in landscape mode. And the first thing Allie does is, hi, I'm Allie. Nice meeting you. First thing I'm going to tell you, Jim, and I'm live. She goes, go portrait. She grabs my phone and goes like that. And I've been like that ever since. Whenever I'm on my phone like this, I can read comments easier. And Doug and Allie are as nice in person as they are on here on Happs. They are fun. They're down to earth. They're very approachable. They're fun. Everybody who I've met in the virtual studio audience here, same way. Everyone's transparent, down to earth, very approachable. There's no toxicity whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, and thank you very much
you,
for saying that, Jimmy. Very, very kind words. I think to a degree, it's hard to put on any kind of persona or act when you're live.
Yeah.
I think live peels some of that away. If you're going to be on for an hour, it's hard to fake it and act
right
for an hour and do something that people would be, drawn to, because you couldn't keep it up forever. At some point, if there's interaction and it's a live setting, your true self is gonna come out usually for the most part. So when we do it, we're in our element. The place that we spend more time, or probably as much time as we do away from home, our studio. It's our business. We don't work for someone else. It's our studio, and we work together, and it's just us. So we're just there being us, doing our thing. I mean, granted, do we act exactly the same and say the exact same thing to an audience live on? Well, yeah, probably we do.
No, you swear more live, probably.
Doug does not let me use the same words that I would use in daily life when we're live streaming. Well, he censors me.
Well, you know what? We are there under our brand, so you do kind of have to have a little bit of awareness, but I don't think we're acting. I think we're just being ourselves, just doing our thing.
They're being real. I mean, what you see in their studio was no different than when we're over at the Hyatt at that podcast summit, and everybody who I meet at a meetup, same way. I mean, there were the ones who were fake, the ones who pretended. They're not really in the game anymore. They changed channels or they're on other platforms because they're trying to monetize. They're trying to become the next, virtual reality or, live streaming superstar or whatever. But we're here for the love of it, for fun.
There was a lot of that in that first year of Periscope when live streaming was so brand new and no one knew really where it was going to go and how big it might get. There were people on there that you could tell were there to try to get big. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they definitely had an agenda around that. And you could see through. I mean, you could pick them out. And then when we met them all at the summit, you could tell the people you figured would be real were real. And the people you kind of didn't think would be generally weren't. And like I said,
so interesting, yeah.
The live element kind of strips away. It's hard to hide. It's hard to hide when you're live.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, that was something where I remember like people trying to buy viewers and buy, to get badges and to buy, become super broadcasters and they were just lying through their teeth just to get what they wanted. They can care less about people who were there as friends. And all of a sudden you just drop off the planet. And then they would make you guys or make us look like we were the ones that are out of our minds and we were the narcissists, which whatever. We move on.
Yeah, there was a summit.
Yeah, there was two.
There were three actually. The second one was the big one in San Francisco.
That was a blast.
It was crazy.
So much fun.
Hundreds of scopers from all around the world all converged on San Francisco at the height and the peak of when things were really magical, and it was just an amazing weekend. I mean, and I often talk about how this kind of reboot of the community here on Happs kind of feels like those early days of Periscope a little bit because something exciting is happening, and it's a new platform, and it's kind of, I can see Happs with the potential to kind of be the best parts of what we hoped Periscope would be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
This is just a whole new chapter. We are so, I'm sure our audience here will relate to all of us. It's just, this is just, I actually am excited to go live again. I'm looking forward to going on tonight and tomorrow and Saturday. It's been years since I felt this way.
Yeah.
Billy D, shh.
Billy D likes turtles, by the way.
Yeah, he's outing me right now. He said I have a great memory from that summit.
Well, but it was interesting because at that Periscope summit in San Francisco, where Periscope's located, the Periscope team, they did show up. They came and they spoke, and then they hosted a little after hours for some of us at a bar. And they were pleasant, and they were and they mingled, but they they were not on the app very much. The Periscope people did not use their own app, and they did not engage with the community that much. And that's kind of what I like, that you guys, I mean, we're turning the tables, we're talking about you guys instead of talk shows. But go ahead, Allie.
I was going to say, what year was that summit? Because towards the end, Periscope was almost completely abandoned and neglected by the Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Which, no doubt, this was February of 2016.
Yep.
Right. So you're talking 4 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Almost 5 years.
5
what
years.
I was going to circle back and say one of the things that I love most about what's going on now with Happs is the Peter and Pablo and the Mark, and you guys are all involved.
Right.
And it's so awesome when we do a broadcast and you guys pop up and you pop in, and it's so wonderful and heartwarming. And it's like when Peter slides into the DMs.
There are no DMs yet, just to be fair.
That was awesome.
But we do try to tune in, and we're definitely very conscious of being present on our app, but also more importantly in our community, and understand the needs and preferences, and iterate according to everyone's priorities and needs.
Try not to ever change that though, because that's what will keep people here.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what keeps it fun for us, to be honest. Otherwise, we're not really serving anyone. Frankly, hard to succeed without it, in my opinion, as well. Right, in the long term, or even in the short run.
You'd think it would be common sense, but it wasn't. Common sense isn't always so common.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like that.
This
you have that on a bumper sticker somewhere.
So you know what? Maybe we should make a bumper sticker. I have a friend.
I don't think I invented that.
You just did right now.
I love it. I don't know if you did or not, but oh, man. Well, this is awesome. Any final thoughts or words here? We need to wrap this up in a few minutes. But maybe closing statements from everyone. What can we expect? Maybe you can give a little sneak preview of your next show, for example, and do a little shout out for yourself. Why not?
Jimmy, go.
Helen, go.
Heather, Jimmy, go. You've got the big talk show. You go.
I would touch on it. Well, you kind of do improvisation theater, though, which I like better because it's more spontaneous and more fun.
You're the one with the big event coming up, though.
Well, you hurry up and just tell us about this fabulous talk show.
In 7 months. No, I don't know if they're not, but we'll see. Now, we got to do this. It's a much stick. We got to reinvent something here. Okay. All right. At ease. All right. As I was saying, tonight here on Happs, the network of now, we have Catalyst. If you're stressed, if you're pissed off, you're tired, you're having anxiety attacks, you don't have to look at me. You can look at a nice warm candle that's about to go out. It better warm out soon. Spill your guts tonight, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. Tomorrow night, here on Happs, the network of now, JS Live, the late night talk and variety program. Great lineup this week. A matter of fact, coincidentally, the people right underneath me, that's right, they're done. Hey. But they're above us in our hearts and our minds. They'll be joining me tomorrow night on our program for more antics and crazy stuff. Plus, we will have fitness guru Beth Hoover from Beth Hoover Fitness on, and musical guest tickling the ivories for our enjoyment, Piano Man. That will be Thursday, JS Live, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. And then I'm back from a week vacation. Hopefully this project's over. It's Saturday Night Trivia, Happs Game 21 from Television City in Chicago. Trivia fun, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. All new categories, all are welcome. Even if you're horrible at trivia, the interaction between questions is electric, and it's a lot of fun. So please join us. And thank you for having me, Peter. This is awesome.
Hey, no, our pleasure. Very cool. So many interesting show ideas, and we'll be sure to tune in. Everyone, please subscribe to Jim. All right, Doug and Allie, you're up. What's next from the Octo Squad? What can we, What can we review?
He's redeeming himself. So tomorrow on the Doug and Ellie Morning Show, we are highlighting songs from 1965 and 66.
Oh right, yeah. We've been doing. We're on the tail end of a daily year focus on songs from a year. So we started from 2020, and we're all the way back to 65, 66. So we do music focus on our show very often, but we don't really have any like major specific plugs beyond that, other than just to say, join us on the Doug and Allie Morning Show somewhere around 10:30ish Eastern Standard Time until 11:30ish Eastern Standard Time. And
we did that for you guys on the East Coast. Now that both kids are in college, we start later.
We start later than we used to
start at 8:30.
We don't have to get up for school in the morning anymore. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And you can visit us at frameablefaces.com. We're going to be recording new episodes of the Doug and Allie Morning Show podcast soon, which is separate from the morning show. So we'll plug that here. And that's another thing that's cool about Happs is you can post stuff in your feed beyond just your broadcasts. So in between your broadcasts, if you have something that you've blogged about or something on your website or a podcast or something else going on, you can post that right in your feed.
Totally. Everyone go subscribe to Frameable Faces, Doug and Allie here on Happs. And be sure to check out their blog podcast as well. Helen, you're up. Or Heather, sorry.
Well, specifically this week, I mean, I tend to not have a structured, timetable of what's happening and when. But this week, specifically, we're doing our music chit chat sort of book club type thing on Friday. Don't have a specific time for that, but it'll probably be somewhere around 11-ish p.m. UK time. You guys will have to do the fathoming out this time because it's always me that's got to work out GMT. You can work out the American times for that. I usually go live after my radio show on a Thursday night, so that goes out on Vault Radio between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. GMT, and then I broadcast after that. And Perry Blind Date will be making a comeback soon.
There you go.
You'll mostly find me in the cheap seats. That's where you usually find me around in other people's broadcasts in the cheap seats. That's where I tend to be.
Right on. That's fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for your time. Thank everyone for joining us here, especially in the audience and in the comment section. Really great to have you all here. Sorry that I stumbled in late and finally worked out my Wi-Fi situation, but have some good news. I will be getting fiber optics soon, so we'll no longer need a parka. And they can upgrade my whole studio actually with camera, mic, all that. Someday I'll be close to Pablo level with his amazing sort of Pink Happs branded lighting and all that, but we'll see. One step at a time. I'll try to get a consistent signal first, maybe. But
you can do it.
I'm gonna try. But thank you all again for joining. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you for having us in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Subscribe to Helen, Jim, and Doug and Allie Frameable Faces right now, and we'll see you all soon in the comments.
Hip hip cheerio.
Cheerio.